welcome to everyone to join our pitch here today at SEANERGY in Dunkerque. And we would like to introduce to you the newly founded joint venture, BUSS EDA Offshore. And before we start with the scope of what we see BUSS EDA Offshore with, we'd like to introduce to you the two companies that the two of us represent here today. And myself, Martin Baumann, speaking for BUSS Group, based in Hamburg. Let me have a few words on that. BUSS has been founded around 100 years ago as a Hamburg-based logistics service provider, and today provides quite a wide range of services all across northern Germany and also into the Netherlands. That includes not only the port and stevedoring side, which we see in the Netherlands and in Germany, but that also includes logistics, real estate, and also includes investment opportunities and shipping as well. So talking about the BUSS Offshore division that employs around, roughly speaking, 30 people. We have involvements with 3 terminal operations in northern Germany and in the Netherlands. Predominantly to be mentioned, I think, Eemshaven, BUSS terminal Eemshaven, where we carry out a lot of installation port operations for a quite large variety of offshore wind farms within the German Bight. And also to be mentioned, the port of Sassnitz, where BUSS is involved in installing projects for the Baltic region. Myself representing BUSS Offshore Solutions, we are a project management unit which is now, or will now, together with EDA, provide a variety of project management service for port operations for the offshore wind industry, and today speaking for the French market. Okay.
So for IDEA, so we're a French-based company. We were born in Nantes and Saint-Nazaire 100 years ago. Now the company is around 1,400 people for a turnover of a bit less than 140 million euros. Our historical activities is port operations that we still do in Pays de la Loire, but we have focused in the last 10 years about industrial logistics. So our core business is to serve assembly line inside factories. We are operating mainly on the west part of France, which is also a way for us to have some interest in the offshore sector. And basically the BUSS EDA Offshore company is established 50-50 between BUSS and IDEA, and the idea being to have the knowledge of the German guys, because they have been implementing a lot of offshore wind farms, which unfortunately is still not the case in France. But we in France have the knowledge of the local regulations, the social regulations, and we have strong assets. So it's a GV that is taking both the best of the German know-how and the French knowledge.
Yes, and I think that brings us quite well to the point of what is BUSS EDA's Offshore's mission for the French market. So, as Cédric just explained, what we'll bring forward is the joining forces, the competencies of both of our entities, and that will include the factory and warehouse services in the very beginning of the offshore wind project, where the turbines and all the different components that are involved in the turbine and wind farm process will be manufactured. So we will assist the manufacturing process with warehousing and factory logistics, including warehouse and factory-related transport, packaging, and also the involvement of local contractors.
And for port operations, as you understand, it's an association, and we have the will to work with other local people. So we are not operating ourselves on the whole ports of France, but we will find people who want to work with us. And basically, we will be able to provide the whole service when vessels come in a port, you know, being stevedoring, lashing, customs, ship agency, and so on. So basically, you've got some points on the map which shows where the wind farms are planned by the French government in green, and the blue points are where IDEA is located. So we believe that we have more or less the good mapping today to adapt to the new challenge that lie ahead of us. Martin will give you a short explanation of kind of services, and then we will make a focus on some projects so we can illustrate with some pictures.
Yes, right. Looking at this variety of our product portfolio, which we have kind of prepared to show how we together are able to provide this generic view of what our product portfolio looks like. So I will just go through it briefly, so I will not read to you all the details, but let's start with the project management and operations. So this is basically the full scope and the bracket which we put around the entire supply chain from factory to the installation vessel. That includes all the project management, not only for the port and okay, so talking about the project management includes not only the port project management and the planning, but also includes the execution of the works that are planned. And so you will not only see us at our desk working on project schedules, but will also meet us down on site, accompanying the execution of the lifting and transport of the high and heavy components. And that second includes an extensive variety of technical services that we provide. This is not at last the technical services from the manufacturing side and the pre-assembly side, which will take place in the installation port, but that also relates to technical services that will need to be done before the project itself will start. You will need to mobilize from an engineering perspective the port itself. Talking about mobilization of port infrastructure, we will also assist the French market with offshore terminal development, which is rather the strategic perspective of enhancing the infrastructure to enable it to be ready for the high and heavy components to be lifted and to be stored. This certainly requires some specific knowledge of what the quayside, for example, will be able to handle. And I've mentioned that before, the transport and logistics side is, how do we put everything together in this point, how we ensure the transport between the factory and the installation port, where everything will be gathered before moved to the installation vessel. So this will include ro-ro solutions, perhaps lift-on, lift-off solutions, vessel traffic, and so on and so on. So, shall we go on? Okay.
So perhaps you want to talk about your experience in the North Sea?
Yes, of course. So as I mentioned in the beginning, so we have Eemshaven as our major hub in Netherlands, in the northeast of the Netherlands, where we have carried out a large variety of turbine and foundation projects as a pre-staging port before the components are loaded out to the installation vessel and move to the sea. So as an example, we have the GE's Merkur Offshore project, which we had operational in our port. We're catering for the storage and the transport of all the 66 turbines. Similarly, we had Zenvion's Nordsee 1 project with, I think, 54 turbines. And looking to the east, to the island of Rügen and in Sassnitz, we were handling the foundations, for example, for the transition pieces for the Arkona project. So this is our base harbor experience, which we have gathered in northern Europe for the Baltic and the North Sea, and which we are happy to bring forward to the French market.
Yeah, thanks for that. And as for IDEA, I mean, as we said, there is no wind farm today operating in France, but we've got a quite good knowledge of big parts, heavy loads, sensitive products. To illustrate some of them, you can see that we've been working with the GE factory in Montoire since many years, so we know about the nacelle of the Haliade that is currently being produced. We also work for the defense industry with big submarines and vessel boats, so we know a bit about shipyard activities. And when you look at some parts for aeronautics components, like Airbus, for example, it's more or less the same size than big parts of the offshore industry. Of course, it's not the same weight, but you have to be very careful when you look at it. So basically, the know-how that we have today, we think that we can, can be a benefit for the offshore industry. And we'll make a small focus on what we can do for a specific project, which is the Mercure project, which is now on the screen. So we will have some picture. For Mercure project, it was a good case because we didn't knew each other at that time, but we, IDEA, were working in France with the GE factory, and BUSS was working in M7 with the GE installation hub.
Right,
So
which actually came as close to the point that we were unloading that vessel that IDEA was
coming from
loading.
Exactly. So that was the beginning of our story together. So when you look at the whole chain, everything begins with warehousing, because for building an offshore wind farm you need a lot of pieces. Some of them will go to the factory of the nacelle, and other will come to directly to the assembly hub. Sorry, it's a bit before.
Okay. No, okay.
And then we'll go till the load out of the vessel. Okay. So the first one is warehousing and factory logistics. Our core business is to know which parts we need, where they are, in which shape we shall prepare them. So we work a bit more than only warehousing. It's also about, having a complete track and trace of all the pieces that are coming together. It's about kitting. It's about making some small preparations on the pieces, not welding because it's a bit technical, but assembling, cabling, piercing, painting, whatever. The idea is to bring the best sub-assemblies parts to the factory line so that GE or Siemens or Zenvion or whoever can concentrate on building the turbine itself. When it comes also to ports operation, a lot of pieces, they come by boat because it's big, and we have the know-how, as we said before, in ports operation, so we are able to handle big parts. We are also able to handle them by road. We are also able to handle them by train, but it's quite rare today. And the idea is to provide a full service for the companies, so they do not take care of anything. They just ensure that the pieces are in the factory at the right time. It's a wrong button.
All right. Yeah. From the vessel, the components will then, and the next and very important step, will be discharged at the installation and in the installation port. So we are at the point of preparing all installation port operations, and I like to say that it's a little bit different operating the installation hub for offshore wind than operating a regular port terminal, as we know from random project cargo. The port will look a lot different. There will be a lot of more people working in the port because we have a lot of contractors coming, mostly related to pre-assembly works, tower upending and nacelle preparation, for example. So it's more like a large construction site at the seaside, more than a regular port operation. So what the installation port operation entails is basically the planning of all technical and commercial project items. Technically, as I mentioned, the mobilization, having a huge capable tower foundation on the quayside to be able to erect the towers on the quayside, as we can see in the upper picture. And from a commercial perspective, it's quite a challenge to bring a lot of contractors together in the port and having them all in line for our clients' consent in the end. So we have a lot of management of subcontractors, which at least at last are not only the equipment providers for high and heavy equipment. That will be SPMT operation and very large cranes to facilitate the upending of the towers on the quayside. And last but not least, there's a lot of paperwork to be done, a lot of process manuals to be prepared that everything is safe and secure and in line with HSE requirements, all lifting and transport studies are available, which is not only important for the insurance, but also to ensure the health of everyone involved in the process chain. So, as mentioned, the outfitting part on the right side is one thing which we have in our portfolio and which we see in our port terminals and which we will see in the marshalling and installation ports in France as well. So outfitting and pre-assembly of the nacelles, for example, will take place in the port, and in the case of Mercure, for example, have been taking place in the port of Eemshaven. And talking about upending and mechanical completion of the towers, and at last the engineering of all storage and assembly foundations. So yeah, having come to that point that everything has finally moved from the factory overseas, from anywhere in the world, and everything has arrived in the port, in the installation hub, then it's loaded and it's stored in a secure way for weather conditions suitable, and providing sufficient load spreading. And the final bit that has to be done is then finally loading it out to the installation vessel, which is, I would say, the most important asset involved in the installation process of an offshore wind farm. So delaying that vessel would definitely be a huge is a huge risk to the project owner. So it's very important to have everything ready in time and available on the quayside for the vessel, jack-up vessel, for the installation vessel to be picked up. So quayside storage of components is very important thing. The tower is ready to be picked up by the installation vessel, and everything must be provided just in time, or just in cycle of the jack-up vessel to be available for the jack-up vessel to take it on board and to install it timely on the sea.
Well, thanks. I think that's all. I mean, the idea was to try to explain to you what we can do inside the BUSS Offshore company. As I said at the beginning, we are not in a position to, and we are not in the will to operate everything ourselves. So we will need partners, and we will, of course, bring local content in each and every harbor where the wind farm will be installed. So we are ready to answer your questions, be it now or be it in our booth. So we are located C63. If you want to come and pop up by us, and we will take questions in French or English or German, as you want. I hope we were not too long. Thanks, Martin, for coming from Hamburg.
Thank you,
today.
Cédric.
And the last news is that the company is officially established. I mean, contracts are signed right now, so we're ready to take some business from you guys.
We're happy to do so.
And thanks for your attention.